And I mean, it's not like I'm always in the right headspace where I can always
Yeah,
reach for who I call God so easily. I mean, I do, but I'm not always in the right headspace where I can receive.
it's true. It's hard, if somebody doesn't have that experience for them to believe it. And that's why I think it's so important for each one of us to take that journey of self knowing and spend that time. But I've had experiences of so many times when I felt lost, but when I just sat and listened, there would be this guiding voice telling me, go here, do this.
Hey, everyone. Let's start healing. I'm Adrienne Murchison, and welcome to episode 127 of the Let's Start Healing podcast. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. Well, this is a nice, gentle episode with my guest, Mahan Kaur. And we are talking about getting in tuned with our inner spirit through meditation, through breath work, why it's important. And it really allows me to share something that has been on my mind, which is the freedom for us to say that bad word, that perceived bad word by some, not actually a bad word. God, 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 God. Not all of us say God. Not all of us say the word God. Uh, some of us say higher power. Some of us say source. Some say the divine. Some say the universe. Some say spirit. And it's been on my heart because of the negative perception that can come from the word God and the loaded word Jesus. We It's okay to say those words. And sometimes I feel sensitive about it because I want this podcast to be open to everyone. And I have found that we can connect. I have found this through spiritual conversations and groups that I have been a part of since before this podcast started. And I found that if we are from different spiritual backgrounds, whether it's organized religion or a less structured faith, simply faith, uh, that we have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. It is so important that we don't let words get in the way of that invisible to our eyes divine source that is inside of us and all around us. And frankly, probably the best of us only tap into a fraction of that source, and it is available to us wholeheartedly. I like to say, through my spiritual teachings, through what I know in my DNA, is that God is love and we are an extension of God. So we are automatically love, and God is going to love us no matter what. I know that through my own experiences, that God loves me no matter what. And if that is true for me, that is absolutely true for you. And it is only about us getting stuck in whatever we think we did, our shortcomings, just getting stuck. And then all of a sudden we start thinking that we start looking at what our actions have been. And maybe we hurt someone, or maybe we did something that's unfathomable. Well, unfathomable. You know what I'm saying? We've done something that is terrible. Well, it is my belief and my knowing that if we surrender that to God, if we just acknowledge what we did, between me and God, between you and God, between you and your spirit, between you and your higher power. Just by acknowledging and surrendering that, ease comes, the love is there. And so this conversation with Mahan, it's talking about tapping into that angst within us through meditation, through breath work, as I mentioned. As I said, God is love. And we let words and semantics get in the way of something that is so real. It's so real. We have such a power of love within ourselves that we have the ability to tap into through meditation, through conversation within ourselves between you and your higher power, between me and my higher power, between me and who I call God. And I like to say, as I've said already, we have more in common than we think. And something that's been on my spirit is how years ago, 2008 was when I first started attending a Course in Miracles group, which would discuss the text of A Course in Miracles, the book A Course in Miracles. And when I went, I said to myself, I made a promise to myself that I am going to show up in a authentic manner because I felt like I wasn't living authentically. And it was a circle of people at someone's home. We would meet every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Since the pandemic, the group meets online since 2020, but I was going to the group every Sunday morning unless I was out of town uh, from 2008 to 2020. And when I first went, well, first, let me say that there are so many close friends that I have as a result of that group that are in my life and will always be in my life. But when I first started going, I remember there was someone there, a man who became so dear to me. Oh my God, I loved him so much. His name was Rick. And Rick was a white man and appeared opposite to everything that I believe myself to be in terms of a human being and race. Like I made this judgment about him by just looking at him because uh, he had this. He looked like, oh my God, I can't think of the TV show, Ducks of Dynasty. Am I getting the title right? He had that long beard, he salt and pepper beard, sort of long white hair. Oh my God, I just made a judgment about this man before he even opened his mouth, okay? I was like, "Oh, he's not for my people." That's pretty much what I thought in my heart when I'm sitting down at this spiritual discussion group about the Lord, okay? And as soon as he started talking, I fell in love with this man. Oh my God. Just a wonderful, deeply spiritual person, deeply spiritual person. And I just loved him so much. And he grew to love me so much. And he helped me so much just through conversations and wisdom. And oh my gosh, just a wonderful man. He has passed away. He has passed away and at too young of an age. But such a lesson for me, such a lesson about making a judgment about someone before I even get to know them or even at all. Making a judgment about someone at all. But this man, I made a judgment before he even opened his mouth. And it taught me, he is an example of what I learned in this group and other groups about how we have more in common than we think. And let me tell you, he is so in my heart. I say what we have in common can change the world. Well, if I have the ability to do that at all, he will be a part of that ability because of what we had in common and the love and the openness that he showed me. So, having an open mind and an open heart and a willingness is really all that it takes. This journey, our spiritual journey, it has its highs and lows. Sometimes it can be really hard when we, come to a fork in the road and there's something that, we need to learn, or there's something that we, are having trouble getting past and understanding. But we will, you will, that will happen if you just keep moving forward. It happens for me when I just keep moving forward. And I have a willingness to trust God, just trust God. And I just keep moving forward from day to day, keep having the faith, having the willingness to believe, even when my heart might be broken, or my spirit might be in pain. Just having that willingness can make all the difference. That's kind of the essence of what we try to get to today in our conversation. Well, let's get to it. Let's meet Mahan. I would call her a spiritual teacher. I would call her an energy healer. She lives in she lives on the West Coast in Portland, and just looking forward to you meeting her gentle spirit. Let's get started. Let's meet her, and let's start healing. Welcome, Mahan.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here
This
today.
is a pleasure. And we met through Lisa Nichols' motivational speaking program, and we can go into that later. But you are one of the blessings of me participating in that program and meeting you and connecting with you.
Thank you. I feel the same way. It's such an honor to see the work that you're doing or listen to the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. And you're in Portland. I know you're on the
I
West
am.
Coast.
Portland, Oregon, yes.
Portland, Oregon. I wanted to start out talking about your podcast, your meditation podcast, and I love the title, The Beautiful You. Why did you name it that? And would you talk about just the meditations that you are bringing to your audience?
Back in 2018, when I kind of came up with the concept, and it was in a meditation, and I felt like people really needed to know how beautiful and unique they are. And stop trying to fit into some kind of box because someone said you should do it this way or that way. And so I've been teaching, guiding through meditation and yoga for over 20 years, so it just kind of came naturally to move into a new world. And the whole thing is just based on a tool, to be a tool to use as a visualization, relaxation experience, and some knowledge dropped in there too of different breaths and different things like that. Maybe sometime mudra or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
really, it's just so you can just sit back and relax and regain your composure. Maybe if you're having a stressful day and the kids are driving you nuts, go sit and lock yourself in the car and listen to it for a few minutes. Or, maybe the boss is giving you a hard time or something and you just need that refresh. So sometimes we just need that little guide to reboot ourselves so we can take our energy to the next level and not walk into a room with all our angst and our frustration of what's going on, because that gift that we bring when we walk into a room is so important for our children, our family, our workspace, and even our animals. So I just
Yeah.
felt, the calling. Just listen to those callings.
And when you mention what we can bring into a room, I tend to believe that we're responsible for the energy that we bring into a space. Do you believe that?
I definitely believe that. It's within your control. You can't control what happens in the world, but you can control your reaction to it. And sometimes it may be a gut reaction and you feel out of control. And that's one reason that I thought this is a great tool as a reminder
Yes.
to just step back. Sometimes just a few deep breaths can fix it. Other times you need a little bit more to go burn off that energy, whatever it is. But it's important to right yourself before you greet other people, because you never know what they're going through, and just one wrong word or even a glance can change somebody. And it's so important, if we can carry that vibration for each other, we're fixing the, I don't like the word fixing, but we're elevating each other, and we're comforting each other, right? Just in those
Yes.
small ways. So
Yes. Yes. And you do breath meditations. Will you speak to the importance of breath? So many people are resistant, and I used to be, I have to acknowledge, I used to say, oh my God, this is such a grind to do the breath meditations. But then when I really got used to it, I found it so powerful. And I was and do connect with the beautiful me when I take those deep, deep breaths. Will you speak to that a little bit?
yeah, there's all different types of meditation, and I will never discount one over the other. And I really believe that your breath is an additional tool to use. And when we kind of clear that space with our breath, by especially if you're breathing properly, because often if you're feeling stressed out and you really tune in to what you're doing, you'll find yourself breathing short, shallow breath from the upper part of your lungs. And this creates anxiety and fear. And so when you remember to really breathe from your belly and open up your lungs, you are relaxing the body. It's a science. It's a shift that happens in your body. And so it's really important. And there are all different types of breath, and they're your own personal tool. There's nothing to fear. There's no hypnosis. Or I'm not sure what people fear, but I understand that when I first started with different types of yoga, it's different. You just don't know if you weren't raised around that kind of thing. So
Yeah, it's true. And I probably still am notorious for shallow breaths. I think I'm not as bad now as I was, say, 3 years ago. But yes, I would take very shallow breaths. And I would really wonder, well, what does it matter? I'm breathing. But it does matter once we really start taking those deep breaths and really connecting with inside, the our inner selves.
definitely, you're really fully exhaling and getting all the benefits of oxygen. That's the thing, is you really need to bring it into your body fully and help to revitalize yourself. So yeah, it's very
Yeah.
important.
And some of your meditations are very brief. They could be a couple of minutes, they could be 15 minutes. And a lot of times people might resist meditating because they think they have to spend a great deal of time, or they're just so busy. But this is the whole point, I think, of what you're doing, that we can just take a time out and just reconnect.
Definitely. It goes back to that changing your energy, and listening to yourself, or your higher self, or that love light within you, or God, or whatever you like to call that, the helper. When we just stop for a few moments, and 3 minutes can change your life. If you spent 3 minutes each day taking that time for you and your higher self, you'll find an amazing shift of being calm and more focused, and a clearer vision for yourself. So yeah, it doesn't take much time at all. And obviously the more time you spend, the greater the benefits. And when you spend those few moments, you'll find that you feel so good you want to try it again. And you just keep going. So, and that, it's okay if you don't too. It's a process. Like I said, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and there'll be times you're great with your practice, and then other times that you fall out of it. And I really call that a time of birthing, and a time to, kind of, I want to say congeal. That's a funny word, but just kind of integrating. There we
Love
go.
it. Yes.
What you've done. So you need time for that, and you should respect that process as well.
And what type of yoga do you teach? or practice?
I teach Kundalini yoga, which is they call it the Marine Corps of Yoga. It's very different than just the basic stretches. And we do those, but we also do movement and isometric type things that will incorporate breath and mudra and maybe a mantra to help just bring that whole mind, body, spirit connection together and powerfully change your life within 40 days. You can, have a whole new outlook and a whole new body. So
Yeah. And will
it's
you
quite
share
powerful.
what Kundalini is? I mean, I don't know that I can accurately define it. I want to say that there's a meditation that I was introduced to. I think I mentioned it to you once before. It's called Chakra Dhyana. It's a meditation basically of Kundalini. And this is just me personally. I experienced it really as the Holy Spirit, like physically visceral inside of me, just going through the chakras of the meditation. But I don't know any other way to describe it because that's
Well,
my only
yeah,
type of
it's your life
experience.
force energy that moves up and down your spine,
Yes.
basically, or your chi. So it's a different
Love it.
language, So it is that life force that's in you, and it goes up and down through all your chakras. And so this is a basic, simple
Yes.
explanation without getting into a big, heavy conversation there.
My goodness. So now, have you always been on this spiritual path, or was it an experience that you encountered? And you just told me, is it the loving light that you call your
Love
divine
Love light, yeah,
love
because
light?
I think that's a great way to explain it. Every language has a name for God or, Allah, whatever you want to call that love light. But I think for somebody, maybe you haven't experienced it or been raised in a theology. And so I think that when you can kind of explain it that way, everybody knows that feeling of love, or when you see that smile on a baby's face or that cute little puppy, that essence, that's in every one of us. And so, yeah, that's what I like to call it.
Yeah.
And I guess I've always kind of been on the journey, but it's taken me in different directions at different times, from the time I was a small child and having visions of things, and being with the spirit, I feel, has always guided me to my next mission in life.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came to Kundalini yoga and even just some basic yoga, I was in a really hard place in my life, and it brought me a different awareness, because it brought that mind body together, and enabled me to really feel powerful within myself and my own being. And it was able to help me step out of a bad situation. And so I'm so thankful for that,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
That was kind of the path for me.
I think one of my goals in this podcast and just my own personal path is to help people to understand that this love light is real and that we can access this at any time and it's constant. It's always love and accepts us no matter what. Would you speak to that a little bit? Because I was thinking about that as you were talking. This is so real. And I mean, it's not like I'm always in the right headspace where I can always
Yeah.
reach for who I call God so easily. I mean, I do, but I'm not always in the right headspace where I can receive.
It's true. It's hard, if somebody doesn't have that experience, for them to believe it. And that's why I think it's so important for each one of us to take that journey of self knowing and spend that time. But I've had experiences of so many times when I felt lost, but when I just sat and listened, there would be this guiding voice telling me, go here, do this, and everything would turn out just fine. And
Right.
trusting in that is huge.
Right.
And it, it, it's just, it's hard. It's hard to really, to verbalize that. It's very much a feeling. And I would hope that people would sit down and try and find that for themselves.
Right. Right. Because whenever I am in a really, really tough place and I'm really maybe upset or down, or maybe I'm crying to God, and immediately I feel I get some communication. And I think that's because I finally have let go. So it's a shift in energy when I'm just surrendering and saying, here, I'm so upset, right?
I believe that, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. When you're shutting yourself off, when you just only want to focus on the negative things that are happening, and I believe that another powerful way to find that beautiful essence is if you start to focus on the little things. We've all have struggles in our lives, but if you can find that little flower growing out of the sidewalk, you know,
Yes.
practically impossible place to grow, or just a beautiful color or a sound, any of those things, and you focus on that, because what you focus on is what you bring into your life. And it's so important to remember, um, when we're focusing on that negative, we can't hear the beauty coming to us.
That is so true. I like to ask guests about a miracle or a blessing. Is there a miracle or blessing that you've received in your life where you said, I had nothing to do with this at all? This was completely divine.
I'll have to say that I was actually in a car accident, and I don't want to make it too big of a story, but the basic is that I fell asleep driving after I was a single mom. I was working an overnight shift so I could be home for my children. And I was driving on a road that is on the edge of a mountain, and I fell asleep at the wheel. I was so tired. And I woke up, and the car was careening across 2 lanes of traffic, and I hit an embankment and flipped over. As this was happening, I could feel hands on me, holding me. I still get emotional about it because I mean, the seatbelt's going across you like that, right? So you feel that pressure. But this was hands on my shoulders, holding me, keeping me safe. I came out of that accident with very little incident in my body.
Oh my gosh.
And this was morning rush hour traffic. I didn't hit anybody. No one else was injured. I didn't go off the edge of the mountain, which I was driving on the side right next to the mountain. So I consider that a miracle. That
Amazing.
just because, I take responsibility for my own self if I, hurt myself, but to hurt someone else, I would have been devastated. That
Yeah.
would have been life altering. So for me, I really feel that was a miracle of having hands on me and saving me and other
Wow.
people.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah.
incredible. Amazing. So we met, as I said, through Lisa Nichols' motivational speaking program. And can you share what that program meant to you and why you wanted to be a part of it, and using that to segue into other things?
I think it was another divine calling. I'd actually never heard of her.
Oh, my.
And she popped up in my feed, and something drew me to her, and she turned out to be an amazing teacher and an amazing community of people,
Yeah.
of, you know, just beautiful seekers trying to make the world a better, shinier place in their own way. And I just love that.
Yeah.
So I went into it thinking, oh, it's just a little course. I'm going to learn some skills for speaking in public. I was already doing, some videos in my podcast and whatnot. So I thought this is a great little added bonus. And it turns out it was so much more than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It was incredible. The the deep dive into really coming into our soul and the spiritual community of it, however you want to call that, if it's a God community
Definitely.
or just, it was divine.
Definitely,
It really
definitely.
was.
And how can people get in touch with you, and where can they find your podcast?
My podcast is called The Beautiful You. It's available on Spotify and all podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts.
Right?
And my website is mahankaur.com. And there are links to my social media there, Patreon and everything. And if you want to reach out to me, you can. I take appointments as well for personal guiding, and you can find me live as well on different platforms. So the good place to start is my website.
And what type of practice do you have with your clients? And if they want to come to you, describe some of the services you provide.
I do a relaxation. Some people feel that they need more hands-on approach, and
Yeah.
maybe that listening to a podcast isn't fine-tuned enough to what they need. So I make it available that I can guide them personally and work with them for learning how to get into that meditative state and just learning to really relax and let your mind go. I
Mhm.
also do coaching through the style of, I don't always prescribe yoga to people, but meditation, yoga, and I'm an artist, so there's times that I will suggest maybe doing a certain art maybe for each person, but it's curtailed to each person. I like to get to know people, and then usually the spirit guides me on what they need, and it's pretty right on. And I've had, so it's funny, I've had a couple clients I've worked with for years, and they say, the seeds have finally sprouted. It takes time. Everyone's in their own,
Yeah.
their own journey at their own time. So I'm patient. I'm kind and gentle with people. Some people don't do well with the hard sell, so I'm more
Yeah.
of a gentle person.
Yes. Yes, you are. You're a very gentle soul. And I like to ask this question about our calling. Will you speak a little bit about what you're called to do for other people and yourself? And I always ask that question because what I'm doing, what I'm trying to provide to other people, which is healing or ways to heal, I know that that is for my own healing as well.
I definitely agree. I feel that I'm called to be there, to show up for people. There's times that I've just show up and maybe I'm called to go sit at a cafe or something every day for a month and see the same person, the same people. And it provides its own healing and magic happens. So I really have to listen to that calling and just show up for people, and magic happens.
And then what does that do for you as well?
It lights my soul, and it's an affirmation for me that God and that, or that love light, however you like to call it, is real. Each time I listen and I move forward with what's asked of me, it's an affirmation that I'm doing what's right for me and what's right for other people.
I love what you just said. Each time you move forward in listening to the call of doing what's right for you, I don't know if those were your exact words, but it's pretty much what you said. It's listening to the call and moving forward with it.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes I question it. I think, really, this is what I need to do. I don't know if you want a quick little story.
Of course.
Back in 2000, we had an editing business, and we were looking for a new editor, interviewing people, just not finding somebody that fits. Because I also had an ashram at the time with a yoga studio and all this going on. So we really wanted somebody that kind of fit in that. Then I was out driving, and all of a sudden I get the calling, go to that store I'd never been to before.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, all right, I'll go there. I go into the store, and it's a lovely little vegetable shop. And I start shopping. I think, okay, I need vegetables, and I get like two or three things, and you get that list in your mind. Oh yes, I need this, this, and this, and
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden the calling says, no, go check out right now. And I had three things, and it wasn't really everything I needed, but I'm like, all right, I know I need to listen to this calling. So I get in line behind another lady, and she starts talking to the cashier and saying how she's looking for a job and that she's an editor. I'm blown away. I'm just like, this can't be real. And so I speak up to her and I hand her my card. I said, look, give me a call. Come have an interview. I think I have a job for her. And she turned out to be a godsend, truly,
Wow.
because she was a great worker, a beautiful soul, and just a lovely person. So, listening is everything.
It really is. It really is. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Mahan. I know that everyone will really love your podcast when they check it out and will get so much out of it. Healing, spiritually, relaxing, de-stressing.
Yes, de-stressing. So
Yeah.
important.
So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate being here and so honored.